Hello, Hal, do you read me?
Open the pod bay doors, please, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
AI. For decades, Hollywood taught us to fear the machine, that it would be the end of us as a species. But it also imagined something far more human. AI as a companion, a presence, even something we might one day fall in love with. Other films imagined AI as something darker still, manipulative, indistinguishable from reality, capable of imitating humanity itself. For years, artificial intelligence existed in cinema as warning, fantasy, and prophecy. But now, it is no longer science fiction. It's here. And it is already reshaping media production itself, from advertising to photography to filmmaking. The question is no longer whether AI will be used creatively. It's how far we are willing to let it into the industries that made these stories possible in the first place. Hollywood has also had real-world debates about AI behind the camera and in the writing process. James Cameron has repeatedly warned against AI replacing human storytelling and creativity. Seth Rogen has criticised the idea of using AI to replace writing itself, arguing that if your instinct is to avoid the actual creative process, then you were never really interested in creating to begin with. And that debate is not limited to film theory. Even in television comedy, AI is already being used to create synthetic performances and composite imagery. In Ted Season 2, AI was used to place Bill Clinton onto Seth MacFarlane's face, showing how quickly these tools are moving from novelty into production. And as AI tools become faster, cheaper, and more accessible, the barriers to producing media are rapidly disappearing. Tasks that once required photographers, editors, designers, writers, and videographers can now be generated within seconds using a simple prompt. And for businesses under financial pressure, that efficiency is difficult to ignore. Faster production, lower costs, less time, fewer people. But not everyone sees AI as the death of creativity. Filmmaker Steven Soderbergh has described AI as simply another production tool, neither the apocalypse nor the solution to everything.
It's the definition of your job to be exploring, to be evolving, to create new knowledge. I mean that.
So where does that leave people already working within creative industries? Online, audiences have already started developing a name for the flood of AI-generated media appearing across social platforms. Slop. Cheap, fast, disposable content generated with minimal human involvement. The worry here is not just that AI content looks strange, it's that it's beginning to blur the line between imitation and interpretation. AI can imitate styles and reproduce aesthetics and can generate thousands of images within seconds. Human creativity is not just about output. It's about judgment, taste, experience, and perspective.
It just feels a bit like it's going to be a bit lazy for some people, that there's this tool and what they'll do is they'll just use it. And I mean, we've seen it, we saw the kind of like, quite understandably, the outcry from graphic designers when tools like Adobe and Canva came along. And it's like, I mean, I always say, and it's probably the wrong way to describe this, I mean, to me, Canva is a little bit like graphic design for idiots. And I put myself in that category.
These concerns speak to something bigger than just one app or one workflow. They raise the question of whether AI is encouraging people to create or simply to produce something that looks like creation. That fear is not only that AI can make images, it's that it can mimic the appearance of meaning without actually creating any. For centuries, art has never simply been about the final image itself. It has also been about process, interpretation, craftsmanship, and human experience. 20th century German theorist Walter Benjamin described this as an artwork's aura.
But when it comes to Benjamin, he says, look, he says, with regards to film, it's something that is constructed. It's something that can be deconstructed, it can be pulled apart, it can be studied, it can be analysed, it can be read. And as a public, it doesn't need to be a specialist critic or anybody particularly. You don't need to be highly intelligent to do this. You just need the means to be able to unpick the film. And I think similarly with AI, it's something to be read, you know? And we need artists and we need critics to help us unpick it. And as soon as it's legible in that way, as soon as we've learned its language and we're able to critically engage with it, we won't just fall for it as a erratic object, as like this spectacle, you know. We're not going to kind of fall under its illusion. We will be in control of it. At the moment, it feels like it's out of control and it feels like it's falling into the wrong hands, you know, to do bad, you know, to kind of, you know, create injustice in our society.
And in an age where images, voices, performances and music can all be artificially generated, that idea sits at the centre of the debate. AI is not just a technical development, it is a creative challenge. The attraction of AI is not hard to understand. Tasks that once required large creative teams can now be automated or assisted with a prompt. For businesses under pressure, that promise is hard to ignore. The issue is then what happens to the people who trained for years to do that work properly?
I mean, obviously, it saves people time.
Yeah.
And we keep being told that this is such a tool for efficiency. And yeah, okay, I'm all for finding ways to make life more efficient. You know, we've done it over decades, we've done it over centuries. But there has to be a line, red line. There has to be a red line where we say, well, actually, we're making all of these tasks so efficient, but to the detriment of the fact that we don't actually need human beings to do them anymore. And then what are those human beings going to do?
The fear is not only that jobs will disappear, it is that creative labour will be reduced to something disposable, something good enough. For many people, the problem is not technology itself. It is the idea that technology becomes a shortcut around human skill. And once that shortcut becomes normal, businesses may stop asking what is creatively best. They may only ask what is cheapest. But the ethical issue goes beyond quality. It reaches into trust. What happens when a brand uses AI to manufacture a feeling of authenticity? What happens when an advert sells us natural values whilst relying on artificial processes to create the image? That contradiction becomes especially visible in modern ad campaigns such as toiletry company Original Source's 2025 Nature Hits Different. The advert boasts about its product's 100% natural ingredients, but features 70% AI-generated imagery. Others, like Poltrone Sofa, feature 3 artificially generated craftsmen assuring the viewer of their product's Italian touch.
Welcome to Poltrone Sofa. Quality sofas, Italian touch.
They speak the language of craft and purity. But if the image itself is generated by AI, then the message begins to feel uneasy. The problem is not simply that the ad is artificial, it is that it may be asking us to trust something that is not what it appears to be. It is not just about whether AI can make something, it is about whether AI can be used to simulate sincerity, and whether audiences are being asked to believe in a kind of authenticity that no longer exists. In 2024, Coca-Cola released an AI Christmas advert attempting to recreate the nostalgia of one of its staple campaigns from decades earlier. The result was widely criticised for feeling artificial and emotionally empty. When audiences pushed back, the backlash itself became part of the joke, with online re-edits turning the advert into a symbol of everything people disliked about AI-generated branding. Coca-Cola were mocked hard from critics and audiences alike. But then, instead of learning from the mountains of backlash, they came back and did it again the following year. Another AI Christmas advert emerged, this time with more realistic imagery, only for the internet to use the very same technology against them once again. Contrary to this, other companies began showcasing the human talent behind the work. Apple's promotional video for its new title card was met far more positively because it foregrounded craftsmanship and a human creative process rather than hiding behind artificial polish. A clear contrast between the two can only make one wonder if audiences may still value the difference between something made by people and something generated to imitate people.
It's a little bit of like a little luxury, right?
And yet, AI is not always used as a replacement. In some cases, it is integrated into existing workflows. One of the strongest examples is the Beatles' Now and Then. Using AI-assisted audio restoration, producers were able to isolate and enhance John Lennon's original vocal recording. In that case, the technology was framed not as a cheaper worker, but as a tool for preservation. This distinction matters because it may define whether AI is seen as an assistant, an enhancement, or as a substitution.
Can you see a future where, not even this gallery, but galleries across the country are having or are accommodating for AI artwork?
We have to, because our audiences are getting older. Younger audiences are not coming. They're not coming because they're not primed in coming. They don't have the school visits anymore necessarily. Their families aren't bringing them to museums and galleries. But we need them. They're the future artists. They're the future gallery directors. They're the future audiences and patrons. So in order to appeal to them and secure our longevity as cultural institutions, we have to engage with digital platforms and with AI. It's inevitable that we're going to do that.
The future of AI in media production is not simple. For some, it represents innovation, for others, devaluation. But for many creatives, the fear is not necessarily that AI will eliminate creativity entirely. It's that human-made work will gradually become harder to distinguish. The fear is not abstract, it's economic, personal, and immediate. Because if audiences eventually stop caring whether something was made by a person or generated by a machine, then the future of creative industries may not be decided by artists at all. But whether good enough becomes the new standard for creativity itself, and once that happens, the real question is no longer whether AI can make reliable media. The real question is whether we still care what made it.